Hi everyone. We will be starting in a few minutes while we wait for everyone to join in. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How to Effectively Address Project Portfolio Management Challenges. My name is Sarvagya and I will be your host. I hope that you and your near ones are safe and doing well. Before we begin our session, I would like to inform you that if you have any questions, you can type them into the question panel at any time and we will respond to you with the answers. We have with us today Vikas Kapoor to take us through the intricacies of project portfolio management in ServiceNow and how you can make the most out of it to gain a competitive edge. Vikas leads the ServiceNow practice at Nows and has over 20 years of experience in developing, deploying, managing, and leading software and IT infrastructure projects and teams. Over to you, Vikas.
Thanks, Sarvagya. Hi, everyone. I hope all of you are as excited as I am to understand the challenges and some of the best practices around project portfolio management. It's kind of a challenge that we all go through in today's enterprise. And I'm hoping that I can provide you some details and give you guys next 60 minutes of informative session that you can take back and make use of in your organizations. In today's session, we are going to be going over how the projects are done in modern enterprises and understanding the ServiceNow platform and the capabilities that it offers, and also going over some of the best practices that can help make it a smooth experience when you execute the projects. But before we do that, we would like to spend a few minutes to help you understand what Nows has to offer. Nows has been in business for over 24 years. We started off with our roots in product engineering. That's what our roots. Over the years, in all of these 24 plus years, we have developed into a global organization with three pillars of services that we offer to our customers. One is the global software services, which is towards product engineering, application development, and maintenance services. Testry, which is our independent testing and quality assurance service. And we serve 24/7, which provides the remote infrastructure services, as well as ServiceNow is a part of that entire setup. Our ServiceNow practice we have been doing this ServiceNow related work for past 4 years. We are a ServiceNow Premier Partner, and we provide sales, technology services, and we are a managed services provider as well. We have a global team of ServiceNow professionals that is providing advisory, implementation, development, integration, and support services with ITIL certified process experts and system admins, as well as the certified implementation specialists. We have gained our experience across all the 9 modules that are offered in ServiceNow, but to highlight the few where we have done most of our projects in IT service management, CMDB and discovery, project portfolio management, governance, risk and compliance, performance analytics, and we have been developing applications on the platform as well. In fact, our application is also there on ServiceNow Store to make it simpler for you to manage digital certificates. Our service offerings, they are bundled in 4 different areas. The first one is strategy and planning. That's basically for our customers that already are on ServiceNow. They are trying to get a value out of the platform. They are not sure how to go about that. So we provide free to low cost services to kind of help with that initiative. Project services, which involve implementation, integration, and testing services. And then shared services is where we use our flexi mode model to provide managed services, on-demand services basically to our customers. And platform development services is where we take over the challenge that the customers have to offer in terms of developing applications on top of the platform. We have been developing IPs of our own on the ServiceNow platform, and we provide the guidance to our customers who are looking at developing something custom on the platform.
Because you have been through multiple organizations where projects are done in different ways. So are you seeing any kind of trends in modern enterprises?
That's a very good question, Sarvagya. So projects in modern enterprises, I mean, the way projects used to be done 10, 15 years back, I've seen those changing over the years, and today's execution of the projects is very different than what it was in even for that matter, last 5 years. It's totally a different ball game. Now, let's delve a bit deeper into it and see how those are kind of done. Now, every company in today's time has both a top-down strategy, which is typically established by the executives to align the company's investments to portfolios as well as programs with the hope of delivering the most value to customers. Now here, if you look at the strategic portfolios, they help deliver on the vision of the entire business. And to support this IT initiative are funded and teams are allocated accordingly. But as you'll see on the vertical axis, not all work is strategic in nature. Organizations must also focus on operational and tactical work from ongoing demand that happens in every business everywhere. Whether it's a strategic work or operational work, the work being planned, prioritized, and delivered is managed across many work methods ranging from traditional to agile, as you can see on the horizontal axis. Now, if we take it to one level down, we are going to see that on as we are working on the ongoing demand, or we are working on the strategic initiatives. Now, strategic initiatives are normally on the top, as we see. Those are where the business objectives are laid out in getting new products to the market, creating services or products that give the company an advantage, investing in tools and processes that transform the company, making the internal as well as external customers happy with the outcomes that are going to be coming from there. At the operational level, it's a different ballgame altogether, where we have the enhancement requests, we have changes and problems that are managed. We maintain the technology solutions which are already out in the organization. We maintain CMDB, we maintain other services which are there, and we try and rationalize the IT applications which are already deployed, as well as business services. I mean, that's kind of the today's modern enterprise, how that kind of works. Now, that when you try and execute those things, whether in a traditional or agile way, one of the things that kind of comes out is because of complex nature of today's business, there is a disconnect that comes into play between various investment portfolios, programs, as well as projects. There are different methods in which we end up delivering the projects. As you can see, 45% of the delivery happens in agile manner, 39% is waterfall, 12% is iterative, 3% is lean IT, and 1% other. So there are different methodologies which are available, and customers, they normally, or companies, they normally try and manage this with a lot of tools to take care of different objectives which are there, different strategies that come into play, and different pieces that have to come together to make it a successful outcome. According, so the stat that we have up in front is a number that Gartner had done a study, and what they kind of laid out was that in today's modern enterprise, 27% of the work that's done on the projects is done to transform the business. That's your strategic initiative. 73% is done to run the business. That's basically managing your ongoing demand. 30% of the IT development time is spent on marketing, differentiating business features, whereas 70% is spent on IT development time on repeat and non-value add work. So what we are basically seeing is there is a lot of different flavors that come into play, which need a different perspective as well as different level of handling as you go about managing those initiatives that you have in your plate. Every 20 seconds, $1 million is wasted collectively by organizations due to ineffective implementation of business strategy. That over and over in the last few years, as companies are moving at a rapid pace towards digital modernization, and the current times have just put in that initiative in the forefront, and the speed at which those are getting implemented is much quicker than what was there even a year back, for that matter. So business strategy has become kind of key thing, and the statistic that's out there clearly highlights that every 20 seconds we are wasting that amount. 9.9% of every dollar is wasted due to poor project performance. I mean, those are kind of the stats which are out there. And this data that we are seeing, this is what came out from a study done by McKinsey as well as Gartner, and some of the stats that are provided by the Project Management Institute. So things that are really happening over there.
So Vikas, what are the key features of ServiceNow IT Business Management? Could you take us through that?
Sure. ServiceNow as a platform, I think is it has come along as a real powerful tool and provides a number of capabilities. We'll spend some time on the ServiceNow platform and try and understand what it has to offer. ServiceNow platform, it transforms the IT organization by helping align the entire service and operation value chain to business outcomes. That's kind of the entire philosophy of the platform. It helps support the business vision. It aligns the software and infrastructure to business operations. It helps put the information together to make value-based decisions, and it scales the delivery and helps you adjust your plans. So across the spectrum, if we look at right from planning your business initiatives, managing your portfolios, to managing the health of business services by doing an integration of the demands with different sources, and then linking it to application portfolio management plus IT operations management, or SAM, and then Agile and DevOps coming into play at the back end or at the very end. All of those pieces coming together, it makes it a very powerful solution to manage your objectives, strategies, portfolios, projects, execution of those initiatives, and then also automating your changes by linking it to the DevOps and then having the Agile-based implementation done. Coming back on the slide that we were looking at earlier, strategic ongoing demands and the traditional versus agile approach. One of the things that ServiceNow has offered to us is it helps increase your transformations for your strategic initiatives. It helps decrease the run for your operational work. You get a benefit by aligning to the strategy and outcomes. And you're able to manage the change and uncertainty by utilizing the power of the platform that it offers. You can scale the work by doing safe ports. You can execute the project in hybrid mode. And in fact, what ServiceNow offers is, if you are doing a project, sub-projects can follow hybrid mode. Some of those may follow waterfall, some of those may follow agile. ServiceNow allows you to have those kind of capabilities out there. And then you can measure the values and the outcomes, and all your KPIs can be measured. You have the reports and dashboards that are accessible to you. The key components or the key philosophy for ServiceNow's IT business management is it allows you to get a visibility, get alignment, and then manage your velocity through a system of action and engagement. What that basically means is your project teams, they don't have to run around to get the status update. They don't have to send emails and then try and pull the information together. That is not something that needs to be done when you come onto ServiceNow platform. You get the visibility in ServiceNow using application portfolio management as well as financial management. Now, one application portfolio management, that is something that has come into play in the last couple of years, where what has happened is a number of customers who were managing their projects and portfolios, their ask from the platform was they want to link it back to the quarterly budgets that are outlined. They want to link it back to the strategic initiatives which are there. They want to be able to rationalize the applications. So, for example, you might have over 100 applications running in your organization, but a number of them may be having redundant features, but not having a way to kind of look at which of those are really being used, which of those are duplicate, which of those capabilities are also available elsewhere. It kind of becomes a difficult activity or difficult way for you to visualize and then take an action on that. That's where ServiceNow's APM comes into play and gets you that visibility. Financial management is another core capability that's available so that you can do financial charging for the projects, and also you can do the budget allocations from within the platform. Now, you get the alignment by using demand management, resource management, project portfolio management, project financials, as well as time card. So you can have a very streamlined process from within the ServiceNow platform. And then to top it up, the velocity gets managed using the agile development as well as the integrated test management capabilities which are there through ATF. Now, going back to our strategy and goals, IT business management from a ServiceNow perspective, it's a framework to model end-to-end idea to value. And what that basically means is ServiceNow provides idea portal from where you can have ingestion of data. You get the information through the service portal where any user in the organization comes in and provides you the details. You work on that idea. If that idea progresses to a demand stage, where the demand manager or maybe the portfolio manager evaluates the business need. And after evaluating the business need, if it's linking to one of the strategic objectives, you add it in the portfolio and then see the alignment to the strategy and goals. And once that's done, then you optimize the portfolio with the priority and constraints, making it a strategic or operational project. And then identifying whether you want to do this project as a waterfall, agile, or hybrid. And then at the very end, once the project is executed, there is going to be change management, release management that's going to come into play. And then you execute the business. But if you look at this entire cycle gets managed from within ServiceNow, IT business management, and you have the ideation, application portfolio, technology portfolio, as well as business capability management that kind of initiates the activities. And we'll take a look at some of these capabilities when we swing over to the system. Now let's spend a couple of minutes trying to understand some of the key features that system has to offer. Investment funding, that's one of the key things that's available. And what that basically allows for is, if I am looking for getting a project done, I add a request, my idea goes through the demand process, gets converted into a project. I should be able to get investment funding allocated from within the system. Innovation portal, or the earlier known idea portal, that's available for incorporating any of the ideas that are coming in. Demand task management, that's another key feature. So you can define templatized tasks for managing the demands. Say program board, that gives you the ability to manage the your programs using the scaled agile framework, and taking it to the next level, be able to manage your timesheets using the dashboards, portfolios management, as well as the mobile project status. We'll swing over to the system and just take a look at it in just a minute. All right. So I've logged in to the dashboard of our portfolio manager. And some of the capabilities that are there, what we try and do is, I'll give you an overview of some of the key capabilities that are there. You might already be using ServiceNow for managing your IT business projects, or you may not be. So I'll try and go over some of these capabilities in a quick fashion, and hopefully that's going to give you an idea of what the platform has to offer. What we have out here is a PMO dashboard, which for a portfolio manager becomes kind of a key thing. If I'm looking at my entire portfolio, I want to be able to look at all my active projects, the cost, the planned benefits, the estimate at completion, my actual cost, my actual benefits, and then looking at different benefits by category and such. That's kind of a bird's eye view, which I, as a portfolio manager, would want to get a visibility into on any given day when I come to work. Another thing you can get a visibility into with ServiceNow is looking at your pipeline, where if the ideas are coming in, people are asking you to do things, and you want to get a visibility into how many days it has taken for the ideas to stay there, what percentage of ideas get converted into demand, open demand, and a number of other statistics which are there. Project health, that's another thing that's available. Here, you can look at your active projects, your projects with which are overdue, ones that are missing a key milestone. So all of these dashboards are configurable, and that's where ServiceNow kind of outshines the other products which are out there. You can look at the data quality perspective, active demands that are projects that are there, demands with no manager, and different stats which may be relevant to your organization. What you have out here is just kind of a sample snippet. This may or may not be relevant for you, but these are kind of the data points which you can get a visibility into. The actuals, you can get a visibility into planned versus budget versus actual cost. You can get the allocated versus actual hours. Planned versus actual benefits are also available, and you can get the planned versus actual benefits by category. So again, what we are going through are some of the sample capabilities which are there. This can be varied based on what is relevant for your organization. ServiceNow also has a number of other things. So if now we had investment portal as another capability that was there. Now, if I am a portfolio manager, I want to look at all my investments. ServiceNow allows me to look at that particular thing based on a year, quarter, or monthly basis. I can get an overview picture for all the projects which are there in my portfolio. I can look at the planned cost. I can look at the percentage completion. I can get how many of them are, what's my capital versus OPEX. I can get those numbers. I can get a view into the status of those projects that are currently going on. I can easily get a view into the timelines. I can get a view into the financials as well. And one of the things that I've seen happening in a number of organizations, even though they are using ServiceNow for managing the projects, they still end up using emails for communicating out the status. They generate manual reports and they try and work with that. So that becomes kind of a challenging thing, not something that's needed if you're using ServiceNow in general. There are other capabilities also that are there. So you can create your roadmaps. This is what ServiceNow loves to call as a CIO roadmap. You can provide the management team a view into different projects which are going on, and they can go through those projects and see how many of those are executing based on the month, what's going to be coming up. They can get the view into those pieces as well. Now, investment portals, there's another thing that's there. You can fund for there may be funding requests that may come into play, where you want to define the dollars against individual initiatives that you're looking at doing. You might want to define the funds at a business unit level. So you have the funding entities and you have the fund requests. Those capabilities are also there, where you might be getting some funding requests coming your way, or you might be looking at some entities. So, or you want to look at your investment as well. So here, for example, I have this particular thing has 8 requests already assigned to it. I can create new allocation requests. So here I have the requested OPEX, I have the funded CAPEX and funded OPEX. So I have additional requests which has come in for for this particular project, and those can be approved, those can be denied. The key thing that happens is, if you're using ServiceNow for managing your project portfolio, compared to other tools where you have to send out a separate request to your finance team, hey, I need these dollars to be added to my project for this particular quarter, because hey, my project started 6 months back, but I underestimated, or maybe there is a new requirement that has come in, so I need additional $30,000 to be added to my project budget. That is something that happens outside of the system in normal organizations or in normal systems outside of ServiceNow. ServiceNow, you don't need to do that. Your finance manager or finance director is going to be able to take a look on the ServiceNow platform and is able to handle the approvals for those sort of things. You have the standard things which are anyways available, where you can look at your project workspace. You can look at your individual projects, how many of those are green, yellow, or red. You can click on them and you can look at the Gantt chart. So those kind of are the standard things which ServiceNow anyways makes available. So overall, the power of the platform is right from the time of conceptualization, where the business team is going to be sitting and defining your objectives for the fiscal year. Once your fiscal years are laid out, then you can assign the budgets and the strategy for that particular quarter or that entire year, and how many of those projects that are already going on, or the projects which are there in the wings, or the demands which are coming up, How are they stacking up against those objectives, and then providing the automated reports and dashboards that the management teams can use to kind of get a visibility into how many of those objectives that were laid out for the year are getting met, and where are we on that. So planned versus actual, those details can easily be taken from the system. So those are kind of the key marquee features that ServiceNow provides.
So, because what are some of the best practices that are out there, which companies can follow to get the best out of their ServiceNow PM?
I'm glad you asked. There's a number of things based on my interactions over the last number of years with different companies. I've seen a number of companies going about doing the implementations. They try and do their best and set things up in the ServiceNow environment, but 1 year or 6 months into those implementations, they realize they're not getting the value, or it's very complicated, or they're ending up still using the Excels and the emails to exchange and get approvals outside the system. So we'll spend some time going over some of the best practices that can potentially avoid those kind of things. Now, we'll start first by understanding what happens with the request. I mean, there are two ways about the request. Either you manage them or they are going to end up managing you. Key things for us to keep in mind is when the ideas and demands, they come into play. When we talk about idea, when you have that configured in your organization, you need to be very, very clear. What is your intake process? Does it start as idea or begin with the demand? What I've seen is a number of organizations, they are not really clear about the ideation process. They don't like the idea thing because they think that those may be too many requests. That may be a call that might be valid in your organization, and you might not do that. But those are some of the questions that need to be kept in mind if you're looking at configuring it in the best possible way for your organization. You also need to keep in mind or ask this question internally: do you have a standard or random intake process? What part of the intake process can be automated? Having the answers to these questions is going to help you create a solid ideation process within your organization. And then similarly on the demand side, you need to be sure if the demand is a part of a portfolio process or a link to creating a project. What is your driver for going about this entire thing? Does the organization have a simple or complex approval process? The key thing you need to look at is what is the most simplest way for you to work with the system, for the users of the system to be able to get everything they need. Assessments, whether they are required or not, can you bypass that? How mature is the cost benefit model that you have in the organization? How will costs be collected and updated? Are you tracking and measuring benefits realization? And more importantly, who are the owners? Those are some of the questions that come into play, but the fundamental thing to keep in mind is you have to manage the requests. If you don't, then you are always going to be running around and trying to do things which are not going to result in optimum utilization of the system. They need to be managed. Now, ideation process, just going over some of the key things. Ideation process, it is a 3-step process. You have idea intake, where some select users are going to put in the request. All the required information is filled out and submitted for review. The review is done by the portfolio manager or the demand manager. Different organizations do it in a different way. Idea triage happens. It's categorized by business unit. Normally the business BRM for each business unit reviews the ideas and approves or defers them. Again, this is something that is organization specific. You may have a demand manager. You may not have a demand manager. So depending on the size of organization, that may be different. Demand process similarly has a number of key activities which need to be kept in mind. Demands, they start with the categorization, they go to the screening and estimation, then they move over to prioritization and approval, and finally we do a handoff for execution. So all of these have a number of different activities associated with them, like assignment, like taking a survey, defining a business case, putting in the expected funding that you need. The approval or deferral is normally done based on the evaluation criteria and governance requirements that you have. One thing as part of the best practice, you need to avoid allocating too far in advance to allow for expected resource changes. One thing back in the day when projects were done in a very simple manner using the age-old Microsoft project, we were just focused on looking at the Gantt chart, the start and end dates, and allocating the resources with that. Now that we have started working in complex enterprises, one thing that we have to really keep in mind is do not allocate too far in advance. It never works. You have to be nimble, you have to be agile, and then manage your projects, whether it's resources and your best guess funding. All those things are iterative. That's going to change as you execute small or big projects. Demand approval, you need to look at whether it's too early to allocate. Project initiation, allocation is recommended. Project planning, allocation is required. Project execution, the allocation should be after the fact. So, this is kind of a thing to keep in mind. Now, when we look at the projects, some key things that you need to keep in mind is project form should be kept as simple as possible. A lot of organizations, they try and put in too many details, which just makes it kind of counterintuitive and counterproductive. It does not work. Complexity is going to really make it very difficult for users to adopt and be able to work on that. You have to prevent a stage gating process from holding up the project. So keep in mind, make an indicator, not a blocker. You have to have the notifications added to keep the stakeholders informed. And try and use the out-of-box project status portal or the investment portal to drive engagement and adoption as much as possible. If you need to customize that, do that very carefully. Normally you shouldn't need to. The out-of-box capabilities are definitely going to give you what you need, but you might end up changing it, but be very careful. Encourage your PMs to work with Planning Console. Match up project view to Planning Console view. Validate the project preferences and time cut properties to match the expected behaviors like actual rollups. Those are things that you should keep in mind if you're using ServiceNow and managing your projects with that. In terms of resource and time management, you need to start simple. I've seen with few customers, they try and create either a very simple portal that does not work, or a very complicated portal that you're only using for managing the FTE, not for the contract workers. And then again, it's a manual process which people don't like working with. So keep it simple. Understand what your driver is for that. Start with a very simple resource model, expand as the organization learns. And below out here are some of the key things, key queries that you need to keep in mind. Some of the best practice guidelines that I would like to share with all of you is try and stay out of box configurations wherever possible. You really have a lot of capabilities which are already provided by ServiceNow. For majority of the customers, that stays put. There are certain percentage of customers that do end up configuring to their needs, but try and keep as much as possible with out of box. Extended configurations should be done as needed using the standard framework. Customizations outside of the core application framework should only be done when it's impossible to achieve business outcomes without doing that. Now, key considerations that you should keep in mind while making any changes is, will this impact upgrades? Customization is something that is to be done really, really carefully, because your upgrades are going to be that much difficult without being careful. You have to be able to measure these changes, and who owns these changes, IT or the business? Those are some questions that you need to keep in mind when you're doing the changes around them. Some of the evaluation metrics that you need to keep in mind, or this is basically some of the start that's available. 100% out of box light configurations, 100% of the customers are able to get, a majority of the customers that we have worked with, they are able to get that. There are customers that have gone in and done some amount of configurations on the UI actions and notifications, or adding a new attribute. So that kind of is 75% of the customers we have engaged with. 30% of the customers have done heavy customization or heavy configurations for that matter, which includes the process workflows, business rules, and script changes that were done. And there were customers that also ended up doing integration because they had third-party applications that their project teams wanted to use. And it ended up with the integration because maybe they were stuck on Plan View for some reason, or they were using Jira, or they were using Oracle PPM. So there have been some changes that have been done by a number of customers. This is another stat that you need to keep in mind. Simple configurations are normally the ones where the general changes to forms, lists, menus, and related lists are done. And this is the most common type of system change that's done. 60% of the changes are basically in this category. And on the other side is the most complex customization, where you build new tables, you write new scripts, you update or create new business rules. Those are the sort of things which are very, very tricky. Try and avoid that. It's going to end up opening up a hole which is going to be difficult to fill. And then you have more complex configurations as well, which happen as needed. But as far as possible, just try and do basic configuration changes, or stay put with out of box as much as possible.
Thank you, Vikas, for such an insightful session. We can now go ahead and take some time for questions. I see we already have a few questions lined up. Because one of the questions is, we already use project portfolio management in ServiceNow, but find it unnecessary to use idea or demand. That seems to make the process complex. What is the need for that process?
So ideation and demand, as we talked about earlier, that provides an avenue for the organization to collect different initiatives that or improvements that users might want. And a number of organizations, they don't open it up to the end users, which is fine. You can have your managers of individual business units submitting some ideas, or you may have a committee that's coming up with some ideas. Whatever the case may be, it's a process where you intake, you get a number of things added to the queue. In terms of the demand, if the committee adds a number of ideas of improvements or automations that need to be done, then those need to go through a proper business case, a justification that needs to be attached to those ideas, and then the dollar added to it, and identifying what strategic objectives or the goals are going to be achieved by spending time on that. So ideation and demand, those are required. If you're not looking at doing that and you're just looking at tracking the projects and portfolios from start date and end date and doing everything manual, then I think that's not a proper utilization of the platform. And you will be dependent on some additional tools or third-party systems that will still continue to be used if you're going with that route.
Thanks, Vikas. So another question that we have is there a way to reallocate budgets after the project has already started?
For sure, there is. So you can allocate, when you create a project, when you convert a project from a demand to a project stage, at that point of time, you define your project, whether the project is going to be capital or operational in nature. You assign the funds to it, but going over the best practice, you don't do all the allocations too far out. Put in your best case estimate, do the allocations according to that. But as you start executing on the project, one of the things that happens is you will need additional funding. You might need additional resources. So as you go about that, you can put in a request for additional funds. It's going to go through the approval. Depending on the organization, it may be portfolio manager, or portfolio manager may have to put in a request to finance to approve additional funds. Either ways, that is doable.
Thanks, Vikas. So another question we have is, we manage our projects using PlanView and find it easy to work with. That is ServiceNow easy to work with and provide visibility to our project teams?
Yes, it does. A number of tools like PlanView and even for that matter, Jira or Oracle PPM, you have a number of options out there in the market. What I've seen and what I've told to ServiceNow users and customers that I've interacted with over the years is, if you're looking at a platform which brings your business plans, business objectives, linking it to all the applications that are already there in your organization, and then have strategic objectives and executions done in one single platform without needing to send emails, without needing to go over to somebody's desk and asking the question, then ServiceNow is the platform, because it is simple to get all of the data in one single place. It's a single system of record.
Thank you, Vikas, for those answers. So thank you everyone for the questions. Due to time constraints, we will only be able to take these many questions. We will connect with you over email to answer whatever remaining questions we have from other attendees. If you have any more queries or questions or clarifications regarding ServiceNow project portfolio management, you can drop them in and we will get back to you. Thank you for participating in today's webinar. We appreciate you being here. Stay safe and stay healthy.